David Picton, Chief Sustainability Officer at Carillion. Thank you for joining us in our studio. David, we've been talking a lot about resilient cities and designing for the 22nd century, and that seems a long way away for a lot of people. But for you at Carillion, are you much more down to earth? Is it more about the 21st century, or are you looking to the future?
Well, we are. I think it's both down to earth and looking ahead to the future. I think a lot of the work we're doing in cities at the moment, for example in London at Battersea, in Birmingham in the centre with the library, in Liverpool as well, these are big inner city regeneration programmes. And that's open heart surgery for a city. If you're going to be working in the centre of a city, you're working on the heart of the city. And what I think jumps right out for us in the work we're doing here in the 21st century and looking ahead to a resilient city of the future is that heart surgery is working on the beat of the heart, which is social value. So for us, the fundamental difference and the fundamental part that you need to build into these projects, the way you deliver them and then the way they work for the future city of tomorrow, is to start with that consideration of social value, to start with the needs of the communities and then to deliver against that and leave something in place that's going to last well beyond the construction phase of that project.
So David, could you give us an overview as to what sustainability actually means for Carillion?
Yes, sustainability for Carillion has been something that's evolved over a couple of decades for us, and you think of what Carillion was known for traditionally, it was construction, and we remain very active as major construction contractors, but we became much more active in the integrated services market as well, and a lot of what we do now is fairly split between construction and big service contracts. So sustainability had to grow and evolve as well around that. And at around about the turn of this decade, so 2010, 2011, we sat back as a company and said, what do we really need to do over the next decade? How are we going to stretch ourselves? How are we going to reflect the fact that we are a joint construction and integrated support services company? And what's going to be the promises we make to our internal teams, to our clients, to our suppliers, but of course most importantly to the wider stakeholders that work with and see what Carillion does. And out of that was born the 2020 Sustainability Strategy. So a 10-year programme of stretching targets, all built around 6 positive outcomes. 2 of them low carbon communities and protecting the environment, which are the traditional green environmental expectations. 2 of them around better prospects for our people and sustainable communities, which is the social responsibility aspect. And then the third leg of that stool, which you have to balance in a modern sustainability strategy, is really around leading the way and building a successful business. So economic responsibility. So all of those areas that would ensure that we have an appropriate profit, that we can reinvest that profit into future growth, that we have sustainable levels of economic development, and that we, as far as possible, when we say lead the way, try to stretch and show what good practice can be, how successful that can look, and really stretching all the people around us and working with the people in our ecosystem as a company to get sustainability in the front of people's minds and being the way we do business.
And we've been talking a lot about the rapid increase in demand on labour and resource as we see a boom, a mini boom anyway, in construction and certainly on development of infrastructure. And the resourcing of that, we look to the next generation and the skilling of that next generation. Is that something that you encompass and embrace in Carillion?
Absolutely. You're right to focus on the skills challenges of the industry, and of course society's changing around us as well. So one area that we've put a great deal of investment into is our engagement with young people, engagement with schools, and engagement with training. And to that end, particularly around apprenticeships, I think we are the leading provider of construction apprentices in the sector. Give or take something like 10% of all apprentice places, and at any stage 2,000 young people going through our apprenticeship schemes, 13 training centres around the country, working with our supply chain subcontractors as well, who've got all those specialist skills. So the apprenticeship programme really means something to us, and then we deliver on that. If you look at what we're doing at Battersea, for example, there's 140 youth training opportunities there. When we look back to what we were doing at Library of Birmingham as well, that was focused on not only youth training opportunities and apprenticeships, but also NVQs and that longer term sustainable growth of skills and experience that really leaves behind something not just that is focused on the built environment, but perhaps creates new employment opportunities for other projects as well.
So your work is extensive. It's a long supply chain. It's a very diverse range of interfaces that you're dealing with, and collaboration is a much bandied term, I suppose, these days, and yet there's this sort of overuse of it in a way. But is there a real need for improved collaboration? Is there adequate collaboration? How do Carillion see this as a key element of delivery in infrastructure and construction generally?
Well, as you say, I think particularly the sectors are known often for being quite competitive, and there's a lot of tough trading conditions around over the last few years. So collaboration is even more important than it's ever been. And we did some work recently which is entitled that collaboration is not a dirty word, just to give that sense really, that actually you can achieve a great deal without getting cozy, that would take things too far. But collaboration through areas like the supply chain particularly are the only way you can share best practice. So one of the initiatives that we are a funding partner of is the Supply Chain Sustainability School.
Yes.
That was set up around about 18 months, 2 years ago now. It's just about to have its second anniversary. And that provides a free virtual learning environment to all of the supply chain subcontractors in the construction industry. We are working with our competitor companies. We're co-funding a collaborative initiative that won the Chartered Institute of Purchasing and Supply's 2013 award for the best procurement initiative of the year. And that's up against all the other categories of good things you can do in procurement. But it really landed the point that collaboration, particularly in tough industries, particularly in tough conditions, is more vital than ever if you're genuinely to raise standards across an industry. And as they always say, a rising tide lifts all ships. So that's really, I think, at the heart of why we believe in that and why we've invested both time and resource in it.
Very good. So, Dave, just one final question for you. If you were to have one hope for the sustainability programme, the sustainability agenda for the UK in the next 10 years, what would be your...
Okay. I think if you look back on where it's come in the last 10 years, people have often said that it wouldn't even be part of a client discussion or an upfront tender discussion or part of the delivery. Bring us forward to where we are now. We're seeing this Social Value Act, expecting that commissioners of public works will build in social value as a requirement of the tender as well. So that's a great step forward. What I'm hoping to see, my one big hope I think from sustainability, is that this isn't a separate part or a separate function or a separate conversation in 10 years' time. This is the only way to do business. It's the only way to remain in business, and it's the only way to be competitive, is to choose this up front as the way you run your company.
David Picton, Carillion, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.